Welcome to the Basketball Remix Podcast. I am your host, Coach 1891. Now, the Basketball Remix Podcast is all about the innovation of the game of basketball, and this idea is caught up in the term remix. We talk about the most important innovations in the history of the game of basketball, the impact of the modern innovations, and what technologies on the horizon might impact the future of the game of basketball. We guarantee to bring value to your time and innovation for your mind. So let's get to it. This is podcast number 3 of the Basketball Remix podcast series and episode number 1 of my first series asking the question, is the basketball backboard obsolete? In this episode, I'm laying the foundation for this series by exploring this question. What's the primary objective of the game of basketball? And to understand this primary objective and the primary objective of anything, we must start at the beginning. The game of basketball is 129 years old. Invented in 1891 and first played with 2 peach baskets, a soccer ball, and just 13 rules, the game of basketball in 2020 looks nothing like the game played in 1891. If we take a moment and look back over the history of basketball, we see a long list of innovations that make the game what it is today. But what innovations have made the biggest impact in shaping the way the game has evolved? In my opinion, there are 3 major innovations that make basketball what it is today. The first is dribbling. Dribbling was not allowed, and actually, dribbling wasn't even invented in 1891. Get that. In the beginning, dribbling wasn't even invented. I guarantee you Dr. Naismith never envisioned someone getting crossed and someone getting their ankles broke. At that time, the game looked more like rugby. The second significant innovation in the modern game of basketball is the one-hand jump shot. Now let me address the impact of the three-point line here, because some of the youngsters will insist that the three-point line is a major innovation. But without the one-hand jump shot, making three-point shots the weapon it is today is not possible. So for the time being, let's keep the three-point line as a subcategory of the modern one-hand jump shot. The third, and in my opinion, the most disruptive in how the game of basketball has evolved, is the backboard. In the beginning, there was just the ball and the basket, no backboard. The game of basketball was played from 1891 to 1904, before the backboard was incorporated and standardized as a piece of equipment. So, for the game's first 13 years of existence, the game was played without a backboard. Most fans know that James Naismith invented the game of basketball. At the time Naismith invented the game, he was a student at the YMCA International Training Center in Springfield, Massachusetts. One of his instructors tasked Naismith's class with creating an activity that could be played indoor during the winter. Naismith was inspired by a childhood game that dates back to the medieval times called Duck on a Rock. There are a few videos on YouTube that go into detail on how to play Duck on the Rock, and I would encourage you to take a couple of minutes and check them out. In the simplest terms, the primary objective is to throw a stone and attempt to knock another stone off a big rock. Yeah. But from this concept, Naismith came up with throwing a ball into an elevated peach basket. This activity, this effort, this challenge has remained unchanged for 129 years. The game is still about throwing a ball into an elevated basket. Simply, basketball is about the player, the ball, and the hoop. So let's engage our imaginations for a second. What do you think the first game of basketball looked like? How many buckets do you think the first ball is dropped on December 21st, 1891? Imagine two teams of 9 players, instead of 5, playing basketball for the first time. Remember, the first ballers could not dribble, never trained in any shooting techniques, and there were no backboards. So, after 30 minutes of play, what do you think the score was? The score of the first game of basketball was 1-0, with a single bucket scored by William R. Chase from about 25 feet. Now, if you just said, and that's why they invented the backboard, making the connection between extremely low-scoring games and creating a backboard to help players score, you wouldn't be wrong, but you wouldn't be 100% correct either. We will discuss why the backboard was created in the next episode of the Basketball Remix podcast. And if you do not know the story behind the backboard, I think you'll be surprised. Thank you for joining the Basketball Remix podcast, where we promote the innovation of the game of basketball. I hope I brought value to your time and innovation to your mind. This is Coach 1891. Be blessed, and I'll see you at the top.